At the end of last week, the Neon McLaren Formula E team announced that a strategic review of its racing programs concluded with the decision to withdraw from the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship at the end of the current season. Now, despite the exit from Formula E, McLaren remains fully committed to finishing season 11 on a high note with drivers Taylor Barnard and Sam Bird. Now, entering this weekend's double-header Monaco E-Prix, Barnard is 4th in points and Bird is 13th, as both drivers utilised the Nissan powertrain. In the team's championship, McLaren is currently 3rd behind Porsche and Nissan. McLaren CEO Zak Brown said that they are proud of what they've accomplished in Formula E and believes the series plays an important role in the motorsport landscape. However, it's time to explore other opportunities as McLaren prepares to enter the World Endurance Championships hypercar class for 2027. The photo courtesy there of McLaren. Matt and Ed with me for this segment as well. So, Matt, starting with you, for Formula E, how disappointing is McLaren's withdrawal from the series? And how would you rate the Neon McLaren Formula E team's success up to this point in the past 3 seasons?
Well, evening, guys. It's pretty big, isn't it? I mean, it's not like a big manufacturer, a car manufacturer going away like BMW have in the past, like Mercedes or someone like that, or Audi for that matter. But within the racing world, it's obviously a massive name, and McLaren have got programs coming out the yazoo at the moment. And I guess they had to make a decision on what was going to go. Formula One was obviously never going to be on that table. All the GT stuff is run through the customer programs, so it was either going to be IndyCar or Formula E. And I guess with the American market, they needed to make that IndyCar stick. So Formula E was the short, got pulled as a short straw, which is a real shame because it's been a bit of an up and down program since they took over. But certainly this year, it's proved to be going much better with Taylor Barnard, especially in that team. But yeah, it's a shame to see it happening. But as I say, also they needed to make some changes somewhere to free up the resources and free up the people that will be able to, hopefully, or for them, transition fairly without too much trouble across to the hypercar program.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's good to be back. But yeah, it was interesting, Josh, that when this story broke, the thing that you sent to me was, oh, you must have wished really hard for this, Dan, because Neon McLaren is obviously sponsored by their title sponsor, which is the Neon Mega City project in the middle of Saudi Arabia, which is, I've talked about before, it's controversial to say the least, and certainly I'm not shedding over tears. I'm not shedding over any tears over the fact that McLaren basically found out that Neom and the Saudi Arabian state weren't willing to fund a Gen 4 project. And so they decided, right, we're going to leave a season early anyway. So there is technically on the grid, you know, a free Nissan powertrain and basically free sponsorship for Neom for the season 12, if anyone wants it, for the team that Ian James effectively runs, essentially. So yeah, for a new manufacturer coming in that wants a bit of time to prepare for Gen 4, that's on the table. But I think when we're judging McLaren's success in Formula E, you've got to remember that the team existed before McLaren came in. It was originally Mercedes, and Mercedes, of course, had even before that in season 5, a sort of training year as HWA. And McLaren sort of in about 2021, so this was middle or near the end of season 7, if I remember correctly, they signed, it might have actually been beginning of season 7, they signed an option where Zak Brown put out a statement that said, oh, Formula E sounds interesting. We're signing an option. We might not take it up. We'll see what happens, which does not scream to me a committed Formula E potential entrant. And then Mercedes pulled out, as we know, because they basically said, oh, we won in our first year. Yeah, said one of the members of the Mercedes board at the time, even though it was actually their second year, the third if you count the HWA year. So clearly the Mercedes board that making that decision don't watch Formula E. But anyway, I guess it's pretty hard to watch in some territories in terms of the TV deals not being great. Although that is, starting to change, at least in the UK, at least. of it being back on ITV. So McLaren decided they wanted to buy up that entry because they sort of got a ready-made championship-winning Formula E team. Mercedes won both championships in season 7 and season 8 with Nick de Vries and Stoffel van Dorn, respectively. And then, of course, they became a customer team with Nissan. We know, obviously, they've had a little bit of issues. They did win the Brazilian Grand Prix with Sam Bird in Sao Paulo last season, and that was a little bit of luck in terms of the safety car helped them out, I still feel. But Sam Bird, nonetheless, drove absolutely fantastically to overtake Mitch Evans, kept the battery just about cool enough in insanely high temperatures on the streets of Sao Paulo and the Sambadrome. So that's probably the overall career highlight, along with some of Taylor Barnard's performances this season. And as you pointed out, Josh, 4th in the championship is brilliant from a guy that's in his first full season. And even, regardless of what happens, I believe Taylor Barnard does have a contract with whatever this team turns into next season. So, yeah, we're not expecting him to go anywhere, but he might become hot property. And if maybe it's difficult to get a deal together financially, even with the Neon money for season 12, we might see Taylor Barnard poached by one of the big manufacturers effectively. So it's a long answer, I know, but to summarize, I think I can't really look at McLaren's tenure in Formula unless they turn around massively and win one of the championships this season. You have to compare it to what Mercedes achieved and consider, even though they're a customer team, and they were moaning about being a customer team as well. I say, well, rather than dilly-dallying for a whole year of whether you're going to enter or not, you should have, obviously McLaren was providing the batteries for Gen 2, but they should have, got themselves into gear, fully committed, and built their own powertrain, which is what they promised to do. That was sort of what Nissan was supposed to be a stopgap before Gen 4 McLaren made their own powertrain. But Zach Brown has decided, well, there's not enough eyeballs on it, so we're going to take all our McLaren fan base away and go race in World Endurance Championship instead, which in terms of it's got, Le Mans 24 Hours certainly it's their headline event. It's got big eyeballs. Monaco E-Prix is arguably one of the Formula E jewels in the crown, I guess, and certainly more exciting to watch than the Formula 1 race in Monaco in terms of just more happens and it's difficult to tell who's going to win at any given moment of that race due to attack mode and the energy wearing down and all the other factors as well. But yeah, I have to say, McLaren is going to leave and feel that there was more on the table, that they could have achieved so much more in Formula E.
In a recent interview with members of the media, Formula E CEO Jeff Dodds said, "We can't sugarcoat McLaren's Formula E exit because it's bad news," and he was surprised by the decision. Now, in the past, many have believed that a McLaren hypercar program wouldn't have had an impact on its Formula E, Formula 1 and IndyCar programs. To add to that little bit, certainly when we first heard that McLaren were thinking about joining World Endurance Championship, it was alongside. We even joked on this program around about 18 months ago that McLaren win every single series and they were hiring all their drivers up. So McLaren now becomes the 4th major manufacturer to leave Formula E in recent years, as Ed's mentioned, joining the likes of Audi, BMW and Mercedes. Now, although McLaren is on the way out of the door, Dodds still believes that Formula E is in a good place with current manufacturers of Porsche, Jaguar, Nissan, Stellantis Group and Yamaha all signed up for the next generation of Formula E. Now, the link to the Racer.com article with his full quotes is in the video description below. But Ed, do you agree with Jeff Dodds that Formula E is still in a good place despite McLaren's upcoming exit?
Morally, no, because there's still loads of Saudi money, and if for whatever reason, the Neom Group having to pull out of a McLaren team is maybe a signal of something seriously wrong. Things are going very badly wrong with the oil-based Saudi economy, and they're sponsoring. They're heavily investing in. We've seen their logo all over the track. PIF, Saudi Airlines, SABIC, which is obviously part of Aramco as well. Then I think maybe this is a prelude to a lot of Saudi money being pulled out of the sport almost a year after it was put in with great fanfare. Then that's a big hole that it's going to be difficult to fill. So I think that should worry Jeff Dodds on its own. In terms of the manufacturers staying there, though, I think most of those are committed. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mahindra was one of the early committers to both Gen 3 and Gen 4. If I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I know Porsche are staying, should be Nissan have had a few wobbles. Jaguar seem a little bit all at sea on track at the moment, but they are committed. And Stellantis Group, there's been a few murmurings about the Maserati team, whether the Maserati name is going to disappear, because basically that was supposed to be their big EV brand, and sales haven't been as good as I think they would have been hoping. And so they've had to sort of cancel, what was it, sort of $1 billion of investment that they were going to put into Maserati, that part of the company. So obviously Stellantis have got other brands they can pull from, you know, the likes of Opel or Vauxhall as we know them in the UK. And you know, they've still got the DS name, which we do expect DS Penske to continue. Obviously, we know Jay Penske is obviously a big part of that team because he's still team principal, obviously. But yeah, so I think Stellantis should still own two teams, as we don't know exactly what's going to happen to the MSG Monaco Sports Group. Used to be Venturi, now it's Maserati, might become something else for sort of season 12 onwards. And then the good news story really has been the Lola Yamaha Act combination. Of course, they've got a podium most recently in the hands of my arch nemesis and hated rival Lucas Di Grassi, enemy of humanity in my opinion, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, he got fair play to him. He got a podium for the team, and it's great for all the people at Lola and Yamaha and Act, you know, Mark Preston, Thomas Biamer, and Keith Smat and all the rest, that they were massively celebrating that, and rightly so, getting that second place at Miami. So it definitely seems that partnership is just beginning, and there's a lot more to come from that in Gen 4 as well. But yeah, what was the question? I sort of just got on a spiel there. Is Formula E still in a good place? I think remains to be really seen. It's certainly a bit worrying that Zach Brown was saying that part of the reason they left was because the viewing figures weren't getting any better, despite Formula E constantly touting high viewing figures that many outlets have been skeptical of, essentially. And you know, obviously, I think in the UK at least, you know, ITV viewing figures have definitely seemed to be on a bit of an upturn to what they were on sort of TNT Sports last year.
Even ours are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, certainly. But I think losing McLaren is going to guarantee that the people that were, and I saw it whenever I was going to London E-Prix as well, trackside, you'd see loads of people that were in McLaren shirts effectively, and McLaren, you know, merchandise. Obviously, there were, you know, maybe some of it was Formula One McLaren merchandise because it was a bit cheaper than the Formula E specific stuff and didn't have the Neom logo on it, of course. But yeah, that's a big part of the fan base that I think might abandon the team going forward, but I guess we'll have to see. Maybe they'll go Jaguar, one of the other manufacturers. Obviously, Jaguar, you know, not British owned because it's owned by Tata from India, but it's still a legendary British manufacturer that's still going to be around. So, yeah, I think we'll have to see what the impact's going to be. But the sky didn't fall in when Audi, BMW, and Mercedes left. So hopefully, I mean, it's not yet. It didn't fall in when Trulli left at the end of season 1, but that was mainly because Jarno Trulli had financially ran the team into the ground. And I think it was interesting because Jeff Dodds, I was just reading during when he was setting up a question, Jeff Dodds basically said that our door is still open. I still play golf with Zach Brown, so our relationship hasn't fallen. But our door is still open is exactly what Alejandro Gag said to Jarno Trulli. When Trulli fell in the first season, we've heard zilch since then. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Trulli comeback is not on, and I doubt the McLaren one is either. But, you know, I expect the team will continue. And you never know, there might be one or two manufacturers that might be tempted in, but I guess World Endurance Championship is sort of become the new Formula E in terms of manufacturers, you know, all jumping in at the same time for that hypercar rule set. So we'll have to see. Maybe all these manufacturers are focused on hydrogen power rather than electric power, particularly in Japan. I think Honda and Toyota have made a lot of noises about that. So we'll have to see which way the wind blows in the next few years. But I personally still think EVs have got something to offer. We'll have to see. I think there's a few more hoops that hydrogen cars have to jump through to sort of prove that they've got the range, whereas EVs, I think, are just starting to get there. But people like McLaren are clearly losing faith in Formula E specifically as a sort of place that they want to be. And I think if maybe there was another partner to come in sponsoring it, they might have continued. But I guess we'll never know.
And Matt, of course, very similar hoops that hydrogen is jumping through, that Formula E had to jump through at the very beginning of their career. And now we're 5 years in to hypercar, and it's starting now to attract, similar to how Gen 2 attracted manufacturers in. So what's your take on the current state of Formula E?
Yeah, and to the hydrogen point, obviously, and Ed mentioned Toyota. they're going to amend or knock down and rebuild the whole pit lane at Le Mans to incorporate hydrogen, or there was a story about this 18 maybe months ago, so that they can have hydrogen cars running properly at Le Mans and they can pipe all the stuff into the garages and whatnot else. Not sure where that story's got to in terms of its progression, but that has been in the pipeline for WEC. And you're right, it was that we had the boom period, I guess, of Formula E over sort of seasons 2 through 4, 5 into Gen 2 of all the manufacturers coming in. And pretty much all of them have, from that period, as you mentioned, with sort of BMW, Mercedes, Audi have fallen by the wayside.
Porsche's still there.
Porsche's still there. Nissan's still there. Jaguar obviously still there as well. To Jeff Dodd, the point about Jeff Dodds saying it's all fine. Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Because he's the CEO of the business. Much like the news that ran on the top story of the news at 10 a little while ago, where someone else said it was all fine and it was someone else's fault. Hello, President Trump. Anyway, let's move on.
I thought I was the political one here, man.
No, well, you got it was a record time for you, Ed, for getting your Saudi political views in tonight, and we appreciate that thoroughly.
It just happened. It just happened to neatly factor in. But